What's up, nerds? In this video, I'm going to break down how to overcome motivation struggles by gamifying your fitness. Don't worry, this is a 3D printed Commando DC-17. This is not real. But the whole point here is to make fitness fun. So if you're doing squats with rifles, which I will show you later in the video how I actually do this with clone trooper helmets, it's going to be more fun and more enjoyable. So if you're someone who every single time you start, you lose motivation, you feel overwhelmed, you feel like if you go to the gym, you're just going to get made fun of, you don't know where to start. We're going to break this down in video game terms. So one, it makes more sense for how your brain works because this is how my brain works. And this is what I've done for the last 8 years, but 3 years specifically in making fitness fun and accessible for nerds. Just to give you a little bit of background on me, I help nerds get in shape at the end of the day. And so my entire Instagram page has been that. Maybe you came from that channel. So someone like Eric, who didn't feel comfortable in the gym, right? Making it fun for him as an aerospace engineer, working in a way that his mind thinks, helping him tap into his alter ego Falcon. I do personalized helmets for clients. This is all stuff that I do every single day. You can go to my website and see hundreds of case studies. If you're on my Paul Clingan channel, you can see 112 success stories here. And then if you followed me for my Star Wars workouts, I built 350 Star Wars themed workouts you can follow with a gamified progression system inside of here. This is all free. Like, if you want to check this out, you totally can. But I just say this because this is what I do with my day job. I get guys to go help save old Saint Nicholas, and then they do different gamified themed challenges, and then they earn their personalized helmets because they've become the trooper that hits the gym, doesn't skip it. So with all that said, let's break down these 5 concepts. And the first one is going to be picking a skill tree. And so we're going to go to my favorite game of all time, Skyrim, where when you look at any kind of RPG, the thing that it has you do is identify what kind of character you want to make. And so whether it's D&D, whether it's Skyrim, whether it's WoW, like you got to decide, do I want to be a tank? Do I want to be a healer? Do I want to be something that, is a mix? At the end of the day, you've got to choose your skill tree. And so when Skyrim starts, you get to choose your stones, warrior, thief, and mage. And this is a really important concept here because the thing that I see a lot of people make mistakes with is they don't get really clear on what they want, and not just what they want, but why, and what are their measurable markers for that. And so what I do with people, and I'll go into more detail in this later in the video, but I have them go through what I call a triangle of priority. It's your goal, a longevity goal, an aesthetics goal, or performance goal. Within performance, that could vary into, weight on a bar, speed, if you're trying to run a mile, or maybe it's doing a handstand. Like the more specific you get, now you can align your training, your nutrition, your recovery needs into a specific thing. But here's the important part in all of this as well. There's going to be trade-offs. No matter what character you build, it's going to have pros and it's going to have cons. Some people get more magicka. Some people are more susceptible to fire. Some people have more health. Some people are a little bit slower. And you've got to be able to accept that. If you are trying to get as strong as possible, you're not going to be as fast as possible. If you're trying to improve your blood work and that's your main focus, you may take your eyes off what your body composition looks like in not being a bodybuilder for a period of time. And it's not to say that if you're out of shape entirely, you can't improve all of that. You definitely can. But the more you want to level up, the more you're going to need to really align and follow a specific build system. And when you do that, what happens is you actually reduce a lot of friction. You reduce a lot of friction in that you're not throwing your skill points, or you're not throwing workouts at the wall, hoping that they stick. You can actually get rid of stuff that's not necessary. So you actually spend less time because everything is all aligned. And when you think about the idea of, improving speed or getting to where you want to get to faster, removing friction is the best way to do that. That doesn't mean there won't be a resistance, but if I'm trying to push this water bottle through a hole, if there's no friction, it'll still go fast. I still need to produce force. You can't just lay on the couch and not do anything, but that's going to be what enables you to really build momentum and accelerate. And then the other important whatever thing here is that when you know what kind of character you're building, that character is going to have milestones and achievements. Right now I'm playing, like I said, Skyrim for the 100,000th time. And guess what? I'm doing a stealth archer. Crazy, right? And I know that once I get to a 70 or an 80 on the skill tree of archery, I'm going to unlock the next tier. And so for you, if you know that you've got a strength goal, well, being able to do pull-ups might be the next tier for you, or push-ups, or 225 pounds on the bench, or running a 7-minute mile, whatever that is. Now you've got measurables that are much more motivating for you to close the gap. For me, getting from 50 to 70 in my archery, okay, I've got more motivation to close that gap. In your health and fitness goals, you're going to have more motivation because you actually have numbers to associate with what you're doing. And that's a really key part. A lot of people don't have numbers to what they're doing. So when you go and play the game of fitness, you don't know how you're doing. And that's really demotivating. Imagine playing a game and there is no dashboard for your stats. There is no ranking system, no leveling system. You just do stuff. Be kind of boring. Eventually you'd quit. You'd also get disheartened because you're like, why am I putting in all this effort to not get anything? So that's the first one. Pick a skill tree. It's going to make everything you do that much more efficient. Now, next one here is mastering the basics. And I'm going to use Call of Duty for a couple examples. I actually had a client recently join and he's like, dude, he's a video game developer. He's like, I worked on Call of Duty. Everything that you're talking about is exactly what we did to make Call of Duty sticky. And so the first thing that Call of Duty does really well is it gives you a short-term feedback loop to build momentum. And the way that they do this is they say, okay, you logged into the game, rather than you trying to get to, level 10, it says, all right, get 10 headshots with a certain scope and you're going to unlock a new skin. And so what becomes really overwhelming now becomes something that, oh, I can do that. It tells me exactly what to do. I see a little bar that's counting up. And when I do that, I unlock new things. And so this is the first part of this. The second part of this, I did it out of order, but essentially this is the rituals pillar. We'll go into master basics in a second. The rituals pillar. So when you're focusing on your health and fitness goals, so many people look at how far they got to get to. Call of Duty would never say, hey, welcome to the game, get to level 50. You can't do that. You can't do that in a day. And the first 10, 15 levels go really quick, but then it's a grind from 30 to 35 to 40 to 45 to 50. And then people go through in prestige all the time. But what you want to do with your health and fitness goals is create goals that you can do in a day. Every single day, I set out, what are my 5 daily tasks that I want to do? I write it down and then I watch myself strike across every single day. I can like physically feel myself being successful. And so what I would do if I was trying to get started on a health and fitness journey is I would identify what are the 3, 4, 5 things that are habits I need to develop that I can execute on today that are so simple. A gallon of water might be too much. Drinking more water might be your goal, but let's say you're hardly drinking any water, aim for 100 ounces. Okay, I can do that. I can drink 3 of these and I can strike off once I do that. Boom, I just hit a ritual. I might aim to do 8,000 steps. Track your steps, get 8,000, boom, cross that off. When you start doing this day after day after day, you're going to start to feel really good, build a lot of momentum. You get that dopamine every single day. It feels good when you cross that off and when you see yourself win. And what you can do with this, let's say you do this for a month, right? So you create micro challenges of hitting your steps and you say, hey, for the month, I want to hit, let's say 300,000 steps. That'd be 10,000 a day, which would be impressive. You would 100% lose weight if you did that, just without getting into the science of total daily energy expenditure. Point being, what you can do is say, okay, if I do this and achieve this goal, I'm going to reward myself with a new pair of shoes. And again, that's what I will focus on with people inside of Fit Nerd Academy. If we're trying to hit a steps goal, once they hit the first 10 days, we send them a badge, they earn a call sign. We give this positive reinforcement to the things that are foundational habits that they build positive associations with. And so that's the first thing that, again, game like Call of Duty, Battlefield, Battlefront, whatever it is, they give you short-term sprints to build momentum to help you create that escape velocity. Now here's point, I'm going to call it point 3, but it was point 2 on my sheet. Point 2, 3, whatever, is master the basics. And so what I mean here is that when I'm playing Call of Duty, and let's just say I'd never played before, it can be really overwhelming. There are thousands of configurations, different scopes on different guns, on different tactical gear and equipment. And do you want a knife? Do you want to be a sprint? Like whatever. There's so many things. It's really overwhelming. And you might feel that way in the gym. Okay, I've got to do bench press and squats and lunges and rows and pulls and core and all of these things. Really overwhelming. And so what you want to be able to do, and what I would do, if I was starting out, is I would just choose one way, one method, right? And in Call of Duty, that might be me saying, all right, I'm just going to go with an assault rifle class and I'm just going to focus on leveling that up. Yeah, I could go and do a sniper. Yeah, I could go akimbo. Yeah, I could do all these different things. But every single time you fragment your focus and attention, one, it gets really overwhelming. Two, you don't get enough time to develop the skills and really get the XP, time under the bar, literally and figuratively, to develop competency. The reason why you enjoy the video games you enjoy is because you've got a base level of competency. And so when you are successful, you want to do things again. And if you didn't grow up playing sports, you didn't get that initial reinforcement when you initially started working out. Well, now it's no longer fun. It feels overwhelming, and you're not going to want to continue to stick with it. This might sound crazy, but humans are just better and they enjoy doing things they're good at. If I go and play piano, I'm not going to enjoy it. I'm not very good. But here's the thing about any skill, weightlifting, piano, Call of Duty, whatever, the more time you do it, the better you get at it. We all sucked at reading at one point. We all couldn't merge onto the freeway at one point. Heck, we all probably couldn't order a beer at the bar. I remember in college being so nervous ordering my first mixed drink. I think I was like 26 before I learned how to finally just say gin and tonic. And then when they asked me what kind I wanted, like actually being able to say something without just panicking and saying, house choice, right? But it just takes time. That doesn't prevent you from going to the bar. That doesn't prevent you from going on the freeway. That doesn't prevent you from reading. You just practiced. And the more you practice, the better you get. But when you're practicing in the gym, focus on one training plan. And a good training plan is going to focus on the 6 foundational movement patterns: squats, hinges, lunges, presses, pulls, and carries. If you don't know what this means, comment below and I can link a video on my YouTube channel to walk you through this. Or you could simply just follow Fit for the Republic and choose a body weight or a dumbbell version where I go through and do these all with you for 30 straight videos. So just follow that. And what this is going to do, this is going to help you develop competency with movement patterns. And now you can ramp up and really scale those by going heavier, by doing crazy versions. But if you feel comfortable with a squat, it's just a matter of how you load it. Same way as if I'm playing Call of Duty, if I feel comfortable now with a certain, let's see here, a certain assault rifle, well, I might go and say, okay, I'm going to now start throwing on different attachments or different grips or different things that improve it. And the same thing can happen if you're doing squats. Are you doing a front squat? Are you doing a back squat? Are you doing a Smith machine squat? Are you doing a kettlebell front rack squat? Are you doing an offset squat with dumbbells? Like there's so many different versions, but at the foundation core of it, you got to make sure you know how to let your ankles and knees and hips all move in one motion to do that squat. And so the whole point here is like master the fundamental movements, master the basics before you go and fragment yourself out into all of these really complex things. Otherwise, it's going to overwhelm you. This isn't even getting into the different rep schemes or the different intensity styles. You might see like chains or bands on people lifting. You might hear 5x5 and you're like, wait, I thought 8x12 is their rep range. Just choose one. And there's no amount of like research that overcomes just doing the thing. And that's the biggest thing that I would take away here is like, just do the thing, figure out the foundations and how everything works. And then you're going to be able to actually assess, hey, this works for me, this doesn't. And just same thing if I was playing Call of Duty, I would be like, oh, okay, cool. Here's what works on this map. Here's what doesn't work on this map. I'm going to stop, just crouching in the corner, which, obviously campers is not a good thing, but I digress there. So now the fourth pillar, character traits. This comes to, one of my favorite all-time games, Knights of the Old Republic. 2 is a good one. The MMORPG was a good one. But one of the first things it has you do when you build your character, right? As you choose your class, we already talked about that, right? Are you going to be a male, female, soldier, scout, whatever? But then it has you, and this game's so old, they don't even have actual, there we go, this one's decent. They don't even have character points. Character generation. When you create a character, the foundation of it is the character traits, your strength, dexterity, constitution, intelligence, wisdom, and charisma. And this is something that I think is probably the most overlooked thing in health and fitness because everyone wants a new diet. They want a new workout routine. They need new equipment. Oh, I just need the Peloton. If I had the Peloton, I would lose weight. None of that matters if you don't have the prerequisite character traits. What I mean by that is if I'm trying to build a certain character in Knights of the Old Republic and I want them to have strength, well, not only do I need to identify, hey, my avatar is going to be someone that has this personality trait, But if I want to level that up, I got to put myself in situations to flex that muscle. And so if you're going to be patient losing weight, you need to develop patience. Don't complain when you find yourself in a season to flex the muscle and the character trait that you asked for. And this is the most foundational part of not just health and fitness, but of yourself. You've got to get to the root level of beliefs and identities and values, because if you don't get that, you'll forever just keep changing skins on a character that doesn't have the character traits necessary to actually play the game the right way. There's a reason why lottery winners and professional athletes all go broke after 3 years. Anywhere from 70 to 90% are broke after 3 years. It's because they don't address the character traits of patience, right? Of short-term gratification versus long-term delayed gratification. They never make that transition. Same reason why people, the different stats, if you go and look at it, but about 90% of people don't stick with their New Year's resolution. Why is that? It's not because they don't have goals. It's not because they're not motivated. It's not because they don't, for a big part of it, not like themselves, not enjoy their day and how they feel. They hate themselves sometimes even, but they still don't change. Why is that? They don't change the beliefs, the subconscious values, beliefs, and identity about themselves. And unless you change the character traits of your character in a video game or yourself, you'll continue to spit out the same algorithm, right? You can do all the different diets. You'll lose the weight, but your core identity is going to boil you back down to where you are. And so when you find yourself in an opportunity to flex your relentless muscle, that's a gift, right? And that's where so many people say, "Oh, it's uncomfortable, it's too hard, I'm not going to be able to do it." That's what you're actually looking for. It's those opportunities to develop those character traits that actually is the foundation at which you build your character on, and it's going to make everything else you do work. If you've got a character at 20 strength, it doesn't matter if you give them a freaking lightsaber or a freaking Zabrak sword. This is getting super niche, but they're still going to be powerful, right? But you could have the coolest lightsaber with the most stats, and if he's a 8, like -2 modifier, it's going to stink. So focus on the character traits and not just fitness, but how you do one thing is how you do everything. So that's what I would focus on there. Um, Last, finally, let's make things fun. And if anyone played Fallout, you guys will remember hardcore mode. Let's see if I can let my internet catch up here. Come on, internet. Yeah, there we go. Cool. So Fallout. I was on Reddit. It was like hardest games ever. Elden Ring, 10 hours of getting nowhere in that game. And then I just uninstalled it. Regardless of what game you do, there's a mix here that you want to find. You want it to be hard enough to where you want to, grow and progress. The worst part of any game is when it's too easy. And when you've gotten so OP that you can just nuke everything and there's no longer any challenge. Honestly, the worst part of a game is beating it, because you're like, dang, like that journey and that struggle and learning everything about the character and the story and finding equipment and gear and leveling up. Like that's the fun part, right? And so don't lose sight of your health and fitness journey and think that there is going to be some expectation journey and that's where or expectation destination, and that's where you want to get to. The journey is the destination. It sounds cliche, but if you think about a video game, the best part of the video game is the struggle. And now, if you get into video game theory and behavioral psychology, there's actually a ratio: 70% success, 30% failure. So this isn't to say that it should be so hard that you no longer enjoy it, just like Reddit dude here, whatever his name is. Let me see if I can find it. How funny it would be if he's watching this. Yeah, I can't even find it anymore. But the whole point here is that if it's too hard, you're going to uninstall it. If you're not seeing any success at all and it hurts and it sucks and you just hate everything you're doing from your diet to your workout routine, you're not going to stick with it. And so that's where having a community, having a guide is really helpful. The community helps show you, hey, here's how you play this game. Here's things that I've learned, that I've seen as I've gone through my character build. Boom. Now you start to learn from other people. Having a guide, right? If you think back to the 90s and the 2000s, you'd have these literal physical guides, or you'd go online and be like, how do I beat this level? That's where having a coach is really helpful. Having someone that has taken hundreds, if not thousands of people up the mountain is going to shorten the amount of time it takes for you to consolidate all of this into your own path, and make sure that when you feel like giving up, you've got someone that actually believes in you. That's like a hidden cheat code in all this. If you believe what you're trying to do is possible and that you can do it, you'll persevere through anything. People, commit their entire lives to their beliefs, their religion, and will suffer immensely because they believe what is on the other side is worth it. And so you just got to believe that the reason you're playing this game is worth it. And I can promise you it is. No one has ever slept better, had more energy, had more confidence, more muscle, and been like, dang, that sucks. I really wish I was sleeping terribly and was really overweight and had diabetes. I wish I could go back to that. Like, no one says that. Right. And so you just got to believe that it's worth it. But coming back to this idea of making it fun, I don't want to skip over one last point. And I actually made this inside of not this post. Oh, no, where did it go? You want to make it fun, have community, and yeah, the 70-30. So that's the other part of this too. Is like you do want to have a level of success. And so that's where starting small is so important. I talk about this with a lot of clients, creating escape velocity, right? Like if you're going to play a video game, whether it's Knights of the Old Republic, Call of Duty, Skyrim, whatever that is, there's a tutorial mode where they give you the opportunity to literally like press this button and you will do X. So when you're thinking of your health and fitness goals, it's so easy to get onto social media and be like, oh man, I'm seeing this guy. He's doing all of these crazy lifts. I need to be doing this lift. Otherwise, I'm not going to be getting results. I've been doing this for 15 years. That's why I'm where I'm at. You will get there too. I promise you. It's just a matter of time before you get to where you want to get to. But you've got to set yourself up to actually have this be fun and enjoyable along the process. And that starts with winning at a 70% clip. And so I promise you that I was going to say, all of these in order at the end and kind of how you tactically can do this. I've already kind of alluded to this, but the first thing in here is pick a skill tree. And comment below if you want a video on this to get more in depth of longevity, aesthetics, performance, but really get clear on what you want and why. All right. And just to give you some examples, longevity. Let's say that is your focus. You want to be the best dad you could be. You want to be around for a long time, or you're coming back from the doctors and they're like, hey, you've got high blood pressure. That's the first thing I would focus on, is improving your health, your blood markers, so that you can be around as long as you want to be, to have lightsaber battles with your grandchildren, as I call it. So that is going to be what you're optimizing for. And so when you understand, okay, I'm optimizing for improved blood markers or lowering my visceral fat, now you know what you got to do nutritionally. That's going to be a specific approach diet wise, a specific approach sleep wise. You're going to want to avoid foods at certain times so that we can have a good regulation of blood sugar. You're going to want to have more protein, more fiber. Those are all going to be things you want to be aware of in a longevity goal. Could be mobility. That's another one where people are like, hey, I want to have better mobility. Okay. Now we've got to choose certain exercises that help improve that. Now you've got performance goals. We'll work with a lot of guys that are in the military. They've got to do better at their ACFT, their PFT, whatever FT is that you're doing. Well, if we've got to improve your mile and a half time, you've got to run. If you want to improve your push-up time, you got to do push-ups. Same thing with sit-ups. Same thing with sled drag carry. You've got to do that more. And so if you have a performance-oriented goal, whatever that specific activity is, you need to do a lot of that, because so much of proficiency is just repetition. And I can't tell you how many times I'll talk to people and I'm like, yeah, so, okay, you want to improve your mile and a half time. How many times are you running a week? A couple times this month. You're not going to get better doing that. That'd be like me playing Skyrim, wanting to improve my archery, and I come out whipping out my double-bladed axe. Can't level up my archery with a double-bladed axe. You got to get more specific if you're doing that. Same thing with aesthetics. And I talked about this earlier. You're going to have some overlap. A lot of times, aesthetics, having more muscle definition, losing fat is connected to longevity, because the less fat you have on your meat wagon, the easier it's going to be for your body. And so you might have aesthetics goals. Well, if you want, let's say, bigger arms, you need to do more arm workouts. If you want to build your glutes, more glute workouts. If you want to have more visible abs, that's a big mix of nutrition and training your abs, right? And so just get really clear on what you want and why. And I would actually spend a lot of time on the why. I call it the MVP. What's your mission? Okay, so my goal is to lose 30 pounds. Okay, well, why do you value that? Oh, if I lost 30 pounds, I would fit into my cosplay, I would fit into my suit at work, and I would feel more confident in that because it fit me. Okay, cool. Well, like, what's the deeper purpose? What does that mean for you? It's like, oh, well, now I can finally be present with my friends instead of in my head the entire time at work, wondering if they're, thinking about my body composition. Okay. Like now we've got a really clear why. Mission is to lose weight. Everyone wants to lose weight. Value is to feel more confident. A lot of people want to feel more confident. Understanding why that's important to you and the purpose that's going to give you, that's everything. A man without purpose is like a freaking ADHD dog lightsaber. It's just going to spray energy everywhere. I've never used that analogy. It might not even make any sense. It doesn't, now that I think about it. Second one, master the basics, right? Don't try and go on Instagram and see people doing crazy overhead squats on a bouncy ball and think, oh, that's what I need to do. Squat, hinge, lunge, right? And honestly, when you go on social media, you're seeing all of this variety exercises because that's what the algorithm rewards. And people will then go and think, oh, that's why I don't have bigger chest. I'm not doing this crazy push-up. No, you don't have a bigger chest because you haven't been doing anything. So do a ton of stuff, master the basics, and you're going to get 95% of what it is that you're looking for. And honestly, I would argue 100%. It's just not sexy on social media to go and say, hey, do the same 12 exercises and then just change out the variation slightly to keep it fresh. And that's all you need to do for the next 50 years. Like when I look at my training, it's a squat variation, it's an RDL variation, it's 3 or 4 lunges. Typically, I like to go lateral lunge to move in the I think it's frontal plane. I like to do a forward lunge. And I like to do a reverse lunge. Sometimes I mix in some Bulgarian split squats because I got a death wish, but that's it. Like I'm doing 4 variations of that: a stationary squat, front, back, side, doing some sort of squat, both legs going down. It might be a front squat, might be a back squat, might be a hack squat, but I'm doing squats, hinges, Romanian deadlifts, dumbbells, barbells, kettlebells. Really doesn't matter unless you want to go heavier than do barbells. But like that's it. On my presses, bench press, barbell, dumbbell, Smith machine. Probably can't do kettlebell. You can, it's just harder. Rows, bent over rows, single arm rows. Keep it simple. And then carries. Just pick up heavy things and walk. That's one of the best things you can do for your core and your grip. And it's super functional. You do that every day when you pick up groceries for the family. At least I do. My wife wants me to carry them all, so I carry every single one. I will not go back to the car for a second trip. So just master the basics. You don't need to do anything crazy. And again, that's literally what I do. It's so easy that I can do this. Uh, the reason I've been able to do hundreds of these, this is the upper body one. Reason why I've been able to do hundreds of these basically blindfolded with hardly any oxygen coming to me is because anybody can do these motions blindfolded, like a reverse lunge. You can do a reverse lunge today. You might need to change it up, you might need to go body weight, but you can do this today. So again, that's why I made that, so that you literally have just something that you can go and execute. It's incredibly simple. Coming back around though, third one, rituals. Choose 5 things. What are the 5 things that are going to help me get where I want to get to? I would say water intake. I would say a protein intake. I would say a steps intake. I would say, some days you're going to work out, some days you're not. But I would also set a sleeping goal. And that might be a certain time you go to bed. For me, it's actually charging my phone in the bathroom. But just make these binary things that you do or you don't. When you do them, you cross them off. And when you hit your body weight in protein, or at least your goal weight in protein, when you hit 100 ounces of water, when you hit, 78 hours of sleep or going to bed at a certain time, when you work out consistently, like you're going to get the results you want to. It's just so boring. Success is boring. Novelty is the spice of life. Variety is the spice of life, but everyone wants to make it the main course. Just focus on the basics, create rituals around them, and then reward yourself when you do get to those, right? Like this is an example of something that I'll do for clients when they hit what we call, they finish the cadet accelerator. We'll send them something physical, tangible, and it's like, oh man, that was cool. I did 3 habits, 10 days, total, and I got something physical. Like find a way to give yourself rewards. It could be a set of Legos, right? Like this is your trainer telling you to go get some Lego to celebrate you knocking out 30 workouts. Cool. If that's what it takes, that's what it takes. At least you're not rewarding yourself for doing nothing. So that's the third one. Number 4, this is the one that most people probably won't do, and that's why most people don't actually make a lasting transformation. But if you are watching it this far, I know you're going to do this because you're not someone to go this far and then just quit and bitch out. Write down what you want life to look like in a year. And I call this using your 5 senses to author your story. And why you want to use your 5 senses, because that is what actually gets stored in our brain. Emotions and memory are tightly linked. And if you think about it, the memories that you have are often associated with a smell. with a sound, with a specific snapshot in your brain, with a feeling, right? Like we can all feel like that one time, like we something, I don't know, chipped our tooth, and you're like, oh man, like I remember not to bite a fork because it chips my tooth. Happened to me yesterday. But the reason why you want to do this is because you want to get as clear as possible. What does life look like? What does life sound like? What does life sound like? What does life feel like? What does life taste like when I'm in the body that I want to be? And what does that unlock? Because I'm no longer held back by my own thoughts, by my own inabilities, actually physically in my physicality. And when you get really clear on that, you can then back out. Okay, if that's true, what does that person do? And when you get into like the deeper work of yourself and of personal development, it's an identity shift that you've got to make. And that's what I try and do every single day with clients. They've got, the Darth Vader in them, the Anakin in them. And by helping them create that trooper identity, really, the reason why I did all these workouts in this helmet is just the simple process. Can't put it on, I got a hat. Of saying, okay, well, what would Captain Rex do? What would Batman do? What would Iron Man do? What would Thor do? What would Spider-Man do? If you ask yourself that question at 5 a.m. when you don't want to work out, the answer becomes pretty simple. You just need to cast votes for the version of yourself that you want to be. And so when you do this journaling exercise, you're actually going to start to get really clear. Oh, this is what I want to be true in my life. What does that version of me do in this situation now? And one of the coolest things is that the actions you take now creates your future. The body you're sitting in now as you're watching this was created by old thoughts, old habits, old beliefs, old actions. And so your future is actually here, it just hasn't caught up yet when you start taking the actions and having the identity and the beliefs and the values of your future self. Mind blown, I know, right? Number 5, make it fun. Like, don't take it too seriously. You're trying to play the game as long as possible. There's 3 things in life that you want to play as long as possible. If you're getting married, the goal is not to win your marriage, you try to stay married. If you start a business, the goal is not to win your business, it's to stay in business. If you get, in shape, the goal is not to win being in shape, it's just to stay in shape. The best games that you've ever played, the goal is to keep playing the game. Because once you beat it, it's not fun. And it's also not possible to beat the game of life. You just keep playing it as long as you can. And so that's really where it becomes this mindset switch of like, okay, I don't need to reach this goal in an arbitrary 3 months. I just need to continue to get 1% better each day. And along that process, make it fun. I literally have worked out thousands of hours in Star Wars helmets, pretending that I'm a clone trooper fighting the cis army. Like, make it as fun as possible so that you actually enjoy it along the way. And as you start to enjoy it, then you build some consistency. And once you build that consistency, you build some competency. Once you have that competency, you're like, oh, I kind of like this working out thing. I'm kind of good at it. I'm getting results. And then you're like, oh, why would I stop doing this? Life is so much better when I do it than when I don't. And that's where essentially where you're going to get to. It's going to be fun because winning is fun, but when it's not a lot of winning in the beginning, make it fun. Listen to music, pretend you're fighting droids. And if you got to do squats with your DC-17 3D printed rifle, like do what you got to do. I literally have videos on my channel of me doing lightsaber lunges. Whatever. I don't care what you do. I don't care if it's my stuff and you go do Zumba. Just do something. And if you're watching this video and you're this far, my guess is you're going to do something. So at that point, I've done my job. That's how you gamify fitness. There's other analogies that maybe I'll make in other videos, but at this point, I think you get the idea. And if you've got any questions, drop them down below. Happy to share other resources with you. If you want to work together, there's a link down in the description as well. Or you can just go to fitfortherepublic.com. Thanks for watching. Catch you in the next video.